the smartest person in the room is the one who talks the most. Or at least, that's what I used to believe. For years, I filled every silence with facts, opinions, hot takes, anything to prove I belonged. But what if I told you that very habit was silently making me look less intelligent? There's a terrifying truth about how we judge intelligence, and it has nothing to do with what you say, and everything to do with what you don't. Psychologists call it the expertise paradox, and once you understand how it works, you'll see it everywhere, in meetings, on podcasts, at parties. The people we actually respect, they're not loud. They're not the ones showing off. They're quiet. They're precise. And when they speak, people stop and listen. And here's the real kicker. Mastering this one behavior doesn't just make people think you're smarter. It actually makes you smarter. Because the need to constantly prove yourself, that's not intelligence, that's insecurity wearing a mask. In this video, I'm going to show you the exact psychological principles behind this effect, why being silent can be more powerful than speaking, and how to use this trick to shift how others see you, and how you see yourself. Let's talk about the smartest move I ever made, and why it started with shutting up. Proving you're smart makes you look dumb. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was trapped in a constant performance. Every meeting, every conversation, I treated it like a test I had to pass. Say something smart, sound impressive, show them you belong. It's exhausting, but worse than that, it's ineffective. Here's what I finally understood. The more you try to prove you're intelligent, the more people assume you're not. It's subtle, but we've all felt it. That person who dominates every conversation, always correcting others, always jumping in with their take. At first it might seem impressive, but quickly it becomes noise. People stop listening. I used to be that guy, and I thought I was winning. I thought I was earning respect. In reality, I was draining the room. I was so obsessed with how I sounded that I stopped learning anything. I wasn't listening. I was waiting for my turn to speak. It gets worse. That performance doesn't just hurt how others see you, it erodes how you see yourself. You start basing your self-worth on external validation. You only feel smart when someone reacts, when someone praises you. It's a dangerous cycle. And here's the brutal irony. The smartest people I knew weren't doing this at all. They were asking questions. They were quiet, calm, curious. And when they spoke, everyone leaned in. That's when it hit me. Intelligence isn't loud, it's composed. Real confidence doesn't need to be announced. It reveals itself in restraint. The moment I stopped trying to impress people was the moment they actually started paying attention. And if you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling like you were performing the whole time, not participating, then you know exactly what I mean. Why insecurity masquerades as intelligence? There's actual research behind why this happens, and it comes down to something psychologists call compensatory behavior. When we feel insecure about our intelligence, which most of us do, even if we won't admit it, we overcompensate by trying to display it constantly. But here's the fascinating part. Truly confident intelligence operates on completely different principles. Smart people who are secure in their intelligence don't need to broadcast it. They're comfortable with silence. They're comfortable with not knowing things. They're comfortable letting other people have the spotlight. This creates what researchers call the expertise paradox. The more you actually know, the more aware you become of how much you don't know. So genuinely smart people are often the most humble about their knowledge. Meanwhile, people with surface-level understanding tend to be the most confident and vocal. It's like emotional intelligence in reverse. The people who talk the most about being emotionally intelligent usually aren't. The people who constantly need to prove they're smart usually aren't the smartest people in the room. And here's where it gets really interesting. There's this cognitive bias called the halo effect, where one positive trait influences our perception of all other traits. When someone demonstrates restraint and thoughtfulness, we automatically assume they're more intelligent, even if they haven't said anything particularly brilliant. The silent genius who changed everything. I'll never forget the moment this clicked for me. I was in a work meeting, and there was this guy, let's call him Marcus, who barely said anything for the first hour. While everyone else was throwing around ideas and trying to sound important, Marcus just sat there, listening, occasionally nodding, taking notes. I remember thinking he seemed disengaged, maybe even a little slow. Then, about an hour in, someone asked him directly what he thought, and Marcus paused, not because he didn't know what to say, but because he was actually thinking. Then he spoke for maybe 2 minutes, and it was like he'd been seeing the entire conversation from 30,000 feet while the rest of us were stuck in the weeds. He connected dots no one else had noticed. He pointed out assumptions we'd all made without realizing it. He asked one question that completely reframed the entire discussion. And when he finished, the room was quiet for a moment because everyone realized they just witnessed something different. That's when it hit me. Marcus hadn't been disengaged. He'd been doing the hardest thing in any group setting, actually listening instead of just waiting to talk. And because he'd earned the right to be heard through his restraint, when he finally spoke, people actually listened back. I started watching for this pattern everywhere, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. 5 habits that make you look smarter. So how do you actually start using this? How do you shift from performing intelligence to embodying it? Start with something I call strategic silence. It's not about withdrawing or being passive, and it's about becoming intentional. Before jumping into a conversation, pause and ask, am I adding value right now or just trying to sound valuable? That tiny moment of self-check will change how people hear you. Next, embrace the pause. When someone asks you a question, don't rush to respond. Breathe, think. People often equate fast answers with intelligence, but slow answers feel more thoughtful, more earned. When you pause, it creates space. And in that space, your words gain weight. Then there's the hardest part, getting comfortable saying, I don't know. Most people are terrified of that sentence, but here's the trick. When you admit what you don't know, your confidence in what you do know becomes more believable. You're not hiding behind a mask of certainty. You're being real. Also, get curious. Stop listening just to find a gap to insert your point. Listen to actually understand the other person. Ask follow-up questions. Dig deeper. This is the move that transforms conversations and makes you unforgettable in them. And here's an advanced technique. Make other people look smart. When someone says something interesting, highlight it. Build on it. Ask them to expand. This does 2 things. It earns their trust, and it subtly positions you as someone confident enough to share the spotlight, which is rare. Remember, the goal isn't to talk less. It's to talk smarter. The world is full of noise. When you become the signal, people notice, people remember, and most importantly, people listen. How to truly earn people's respect. Look, I'm not saying never contribute to conversations or hide your knowledge. I'm saying the most intelligent thing you can do is be strategic about how you share it. Real intelligence isn't about proving you're the smartest person in the room. It's about making the entire room smarter. The psychological trick that makes you appear more intelligent isn't a trick at all. It's just actual intelligence in action. It's understanding that influence comes from earning the right to be heard, not from demanding attention. It's knowing that the most powerful position in any conversation is often the listening position. I spent years exhausting myself, trying to prove I was smart enough to be in the room. Now I focus on being present enough to deserve being there. And weirdly, the less I try to impress people with my intelligence, the more they seem impressed. Here's what I want you to try this week. Pick one conversation where you consciously choose to listen more than you speak. Pay attention to how it feels, but more importantly, pay attention to how people respond to you when you finally do contribute something. Drop a comment and tell me about one time you noticed someone using strategic silence effectively. Or better yet, tell me about a time you tried it yourself. Because I guarantee once you start paying attention to this pattern, you'll see it everywhere. And if this perspective shift hit you the same way it hit me, share this with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes the smartest thing we can do is help other people get smarter too.